This game in Phoenix tonight between the Utah Jazz and the Phoneix Suns is the game of the year for both teams. It is really going to decide the trajectory of this season going forward. And I think the implications are much larger for the Jazz. And I say that, Jake, because I think the Suns know that they are a fringe championship contender. The Jazz are certified, minted NBA championship contenders.
Right.
They're one of the best teams in the NBA. They're the best team in the NBA by record. But have the Utah Jazz lost their swagger?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're definitely not the team that they were in the first half when they were going on that win streak and doing all those great things, and everyone was saying that this is amazing and, you know, this is everything that Jazz fans have ever wanted. I don't think they're still in that same place. I think that they're much more in a position where now they're trying to weather the storm that is the length of the NBA season. You know, if it ended today, they'd be the 1 seed, you know. But again, as we're about to get to, this game tonight is massive just because it is the Suns, and the Suns are right behind them in the West. And I think that if you're the Jazz, anything other than the 1 seed is unacceptable this year. Right? You have a Lakers team that clearly is not healthy. You've got a Clippers team that just never lives up to it. And then you've got this Suns team that has been building for years, and they're finally starting to see some success this year. So if you're the Jazz, this is your year, and you got to make it happen. But I think there's a lot of questions and a lot of differing opinions on who the Jazz are. I mean, yesterday, and you know, obviously, you know, you were the one in these interactions, but yesterday on Twitter there was a bunch of people saying, man, well, you know, this team has won 9 in a row and everything's hunky-dory. What are you guys complaining about? And I'm just sitting here saying, hey, that might be true that they've won 9 in a row. That may be true. But the issue is the way they're winning. The issue is the way they're losing to teams like Dallas, who are actually competitive teams. And I think overall the Jazz are just in a position where they got to continue to prove that they are legit. You can't win 9 in a row against subpar teams and then go and lose to Dallas, who doesn't even have all their players. That's just not. That's not going to work. And so do they have their swagger? Have they lost their swagger? Yeah, they're not shooting it at the rate they were, and that's what the swag is on this team. You're going to shoot it at a 45% rate from 3, and you're going to win by 20 points, and they're not doing that right now.
Well, my feeling is that when you look at who this team is, and if you really get into the Utah Jazz and you start to really try to diagnose what they are about as a basketball team, I think one of the things that becomes apparent to anybody that's watched this team this year is that the Jazz need to shoot the 3 to win. It is that simple. And not even shoot the 3. They need to make the 3 at a very high percentage. 38 to 40 plus, the Jazz are going to win. The problem is you have a lot of guys on this club right now that are not shooting the 3 well. I'll continue to say that Bojan Bogdanovic is a critical player for the Utah Jazz. He's got to make 3s. And we've gotten to a place with the Jazz where Bojan has gone away from 3s. He is now back to the basket Bojan. He's a guy that's trying to muscle you on the block. That's not his game. When the Jazz were in the middle of what was that, an 11-game winning streak earlier this year, a lot of it was Bogey shooting 3s that are just backbreakers. They break your spirit when he makes those 3s. That guy is light years away. He's gone. And the Jazz have to reinvent that. And the argument last night on Twitter, a lot of comments. And Jake, I know you enjoy, well, you guys just don't watch the game, guy.
Twitter
as
tough
much
guy.
As I do. Like, I love when people say, well, you guys just don't watch the game.
How could you say that? You guys are dumb. You don't watch Jazz games.
Have you ever seen a Jazz game? No. What?
No, we don't watch Jazz games, bro.
You mean the New Orleans Jazz?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do you mean? I love that argument. And a lot of fans are the same way. But the truth that you can't get away from, no matter how much of a Jazz fan you are, if this team's not making 3s, they lose. It's very simple. And when I look at what's gone on over the last 3 weeks, since the All-Star break, and if you go all the way back to the loss in Miami, you go to Charlotte, you go to Philly, you look at the way that the Jazz are losing games. It's guards getting into the paint after switches with Rudy Gobert. The Clippers did it. That's how they won that game. Pat Beverly making that 3 in the corner, that's the shot that created the blueprint on how you beat the Jazz in the paint. Switch Rudy Gobert onto a guard and go to the basket. We've seen it repeatedly. We saw it in Dallas the other night.
Yep.
They switch Rudy Gobert on to Finney Smith, and the lane becomes more wide open. And when Rudy Gobert tries to lean or cheat to the paint, you're leaving Finney Smith open. And what did he do? He rotated the ball, and who'd you leave open? Luka Doncic, which can never happen. But because of the rotations and because teams are switching Rudy to a guard, Jake, I think it is absolutely what I said yesterday. I think it's the fatal flaw of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, and I think that anytime you have a great team, because let's be honest, I mean, the Jazz are a great team. I mean, I look back to years past in the NBA. You know, you look at the great Warrior teams, you look at LeBron's Miami Heat teams, and every team, you know, has weaknesses. And the NBA is going to figure out how to exploit those weaknesses to beat them. And it just so happens that the Jazz don't have a roster with 3 superstars on it. They don't have a roster with, you know, LeBron, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh, and Ray Allen standing in the corner. They don't have that. And so the issue is accentuated because they don't have that. So often, and I think you will see it tonight, but so often for the Jazz, it turns into the Donovan Mitchell show, which is fine. You know, it's fine. I mean, that's who Don is. He's your star player. He's the face of the franchise. I get it. But I just think in the postseason, what nobody wants to talk about is that you can't have just one guy and that's it. I mean, if you're going to have one guy and that's it, you better be shooting the hell out of the ball because we can't have this team. You know what the real thing is? This team is prone to having the night where they just don't shoot well, and it's debilitating to them because not only do they lose the game, it kills their momentum heading into the next game. All they're sitting here talking about all season long is how, well, we got to shoot the ball better. We got to shoot the ball better. And so what ends up happening? You get Bogdanovich not shooting the ball anymore because he wants to see the ball go through the hoop. You know, you get these guys who feel like they got to get into the paint to get higher percentage looks. And I'm just sitting here saying, man, like, again, if you ran an offense that wasn't so predicated on the three-point shot, we might be in a different place. But unfortunately, that's what they do. And I just don't see that as a success or as a plan for success in the long term. That said, they are a very difficult team to play. I mean, the Jazz are no joke. Defensively, like if you turn the ball over, you're probably losing to the Jazz. You know, that's the saving grace. If the Jazz play good defense, they're in almost every game. So I just think that the people who are saying, well, they've won 9 in a row, they're the best team in the league, everything's amazing, how could you be criticizing them? We're criticizing the fact that this team lives and dies by the three-point shot. And if they're not making that shot, they're losing the game. And I'm just telling you, going up against the Nuggets, watch the entire Nuggets versus Pistons game yesterday, Nuggets look phenomenal, ton of different ways to beat you. If you're going to go up against that team, you better be making all your shots. Simple as that, because if you don't, you're going to lose.
I'm telling you right now, Nikola Jokic is the MVP. I mean, you look at the way he's playing. You look at I have no idea how the Bucks lost last night. It's losses like that on national TV, on nights where you're isolated, where you go to Golden State to die. Your MVP hopes go to Golden State to die. And then you look at Nikola Jokic dominating again last night. Sure, it was the Pistons, but this was a game where people were pointing to Jeremy Grant's return to Denver, and Jokic shows out again. And Aaron Gordon, by the way, shows out again. The passing that Jokic has brought to the floor now that Gordon is there is just incredible.
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic is the MVP. There was a big discussion yesterday on our YouTube channel. Again, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. Make sure you find us, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up. Big discussion about Jokic versus Rudy. At this point, I can say, with all due respect to Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year this year, and I'm not sure that it's close, and I have a lot of respect for that. I don't think it's close. Nikola Jokic is a better, more valuable player than Rudy Gobert, and I think we're seeing that on a nightly basis. Mm-hmm. Rudy Gobert is not vital to the Utah Jazz winning. He certainly helps, and he's a significant impact guy. He's not vital. The guy that's vital is Donovan Mitchell. We saw it against Dallas. He had an off night, they lose. Mm-hmm. And again, Rudy double-double against Dallas, right? I think it was 15 points, 14 boards. Yeah. And you have Mike Conley go off, and they lose because you don't have Donovan Mitchell, and Bogdanovich is not shooting that three and impacting the game the way he has this year. That's what's going on with the Jazz right now.
Yeah.
And so I look at Donovan Mitchell, and I say to myself, this guy's really, really important.
Yeah.
So I ask you, is he ready to be the best player on the best team that's an NBA champion?
Yeah, I don't know if he's quite there yet. I definitely think that Don has a lot of room for improvement. I saw, it was funny, I saw an argument on Twitter last night, over Donovan Mitchell versus, Devin Booker and the comparisons and everything like that. And I think the issue for Donovan Mitchell is he's just not an efficient player right now in terms of scoring. There are a lot of times where I feel like he does settle for that three. There are a lot of times where he's not getting to his spot, and I think that the best scorers in the game are getting to whatever spot they want to get to, no matter what the defender's doing. And I think for Donovan, again, this is where the build thing comes back into play. Devin Booker I think he's 6'5", and he's lanky, and he can hang with the best of them. Where Donovan is like 6'3", he's a bit shorter, he's a bit stockier, and I think that changes the way that Donovan Mitchell goes about scoring. So, is he ready to step into the best player on the best team role? I mean, that's what he is for this team. If you put him on another team, I don't know that he's the best player on the best team.
By the way, don't be too generous. He's 6'1", Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, so he's not tall.
But his height plays no factor in his game. I think he is a bit of a cannonball, there's no doubt, right, when he goes in there. But I look at Donovan Mitchell versus Devin Booker, and right now, again, with all due respect, I just think Devin Booker's a more efficient, proficient, lethal scorer than Donovan Mitchell is at the moment. Well, and a lot of that is that he has a lot more help. I think when you look at Devin Booker, Chris Paul makes all the difference in the world. Mike Conley as a scorer is probably better than Chris Paul. Facilitator, distributor, intangibles, those all go to Chris Paul. And I think that matters. When I look at offensive weapons, everybody on that Suns team is capable of putting the ball in the hole. From DeAndre Ayton to Chris Paul. You pick the guy on offense, Dario Saric.
Yep.
Mikal Bridges, obviously. You pick the guy on that team, they can all score. That makes Devin Booker more lethal. There's no question. And the one thing that I think Devin Booker has done this year that's really taken him to that next level is he has developed a can't-miss mid-range game. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, he missed the other night with the game on the line. But Devin Booker has developed an ability to score from anywhere on the floor. His bag of tricks is, in my opinion, much deeper than Book's bag of tricks is much deeper than Donovan's bag right now. And I think that's why you're seeing that the Suns are on this next plateau. Mm-hmm. Right? The Jazz are built on team shooting. That's the key. The Suns are built on efficient, move the ball, shoot the three, get to the basket.
Work
basketball.
To a high percentage look.
That's right. And whether that's a three, and oftentimes it is for the Suns, or whether that is a mid-range out of DeAndre Ayton, a drive and kick out of Chris Paul.
Yeah.
The other thing I think is so impressive about Devin Booker's numbers, he's not relying on the three ball as much.
Yeah.
Don, because of the system that the Jazz play and Quinn Snyder's voracious appetite for the three ball, has really turned into a three-point shooter. And when he is not shooting the three well, he's not going to have big nights. Devin Booker has figured out that three ball is not going to go in. You're going to miss 6 of 10 threes when you're at your best. Right?
Hall of Famers.
And you look at Steph Curry, who I think we both agree is the best three-point shooter of all time.
Yeah.
Just shooter in general of all time. I think he knows he's going to miss 6 out of every 10. You can't make a living shooting at 40% success.
Yep.
You have to have other ways to get there.
Yep.
Donovan does, but the biggest problem for me with Donovan Mitchell's game right now is he takes a physical beating. Mm-hmm. To get points, he's got to go to the basket. I love that dribble, pull-up, mid-range jumper he's got. It's automatic. Mm-hmm. Please use that more.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why I say that I think the size does matter when it comes to their games and comparing them because, at 6'1", the mid-range game is not going to be nearly as easy for you as it is at 6'5". Devin Booker can essentially post a guy up on the elbow, physically back him down a little bit and then step back for the jumper. Whereas Donovan, you're not going to see Donovan do that too much. Donovan's a slasher, a shooter, somebody who yes, does have a pull-up J, but it's usually in transition or off of a pick. It's never going to be one-on-one. That's just not his game. And so I guess the whole point here is just that that the Jazz are just in a position where they got to continue to prove it. I want to see them beat the best teams in the league. I want to see them actually show up and beat the Nuggets. I want to see them beat the Clippers. I want to see them beat Philly. The original question was, do they still have their swag? Well, you would have still had your swag if Joel Embiid didn't kick the hell out of Rudy Gobert when you went to Philly, right?
I really think it goes back to the Miami game.
Well,
because you saw Miami, they were really the first team that successfully attacked the paint and used that shoulder. And then you went to Charlotte, and what did they do? Then the Clippers, and you're seeing this. You talked about it yesterday on the show. You're seeing this blueprint where teams now in the NBA have adjusted to the way the Jazz play, and the Jazz have not adjusted. And again, all kinds of guys, and I should probably read some comments from YouTube from yesterday. But all kinds of guys got really upset yesterday on YouTube that we were saying they just did not adjust.
I personally would like an apology.
I lost several nights of sleep over it. Mm-hmm. It's one of these things where, like, Cooper Royale says, LOL, these guys obviously haven't been watching the Jazz. They just won 9 in a row, and as soon as they lose, you guys are quick to bash them. WTF, you guys are haters. Oh, we're haters. And then No Nothing says Jazz have let down on a 9-game winning streak after their most dominant performance of the year, and everyone loses their mind. This 9-game streak was not their most dominant performance of the year. Sorry. Their January run was far more dominant. They weren't losing no matter what you did to them or who you put in front of them because the 3-ball was going down at a historic clip.
Yeah.
Right? The Hammer says, y'all seem to forget a couple of very important things. You seem to think that every team has a next play come the playoffs except the Jazz. Newsflash, the Jazz have their own next level. Okay, well, explain to me what that is.
Show me. What's the next level?
What is that?
What is the next level against Philly when Tobias Harris is kicking the hell out of Bogdanovich on the block and they take over the game? What is the next level when you're playing a fully healthy Lakers team and Anthony Davis is taking Rudy Gobert to the woodshed? What is that next level?
What's the next level against the Sixers when Tobias Harris is dominating Bogey and Rudy has to sag off to help to double?
Yeah, and it still doesn't work. He still scores.
Well, no, it's not even that it doesn't work. It's that Joel Embiid is hitting 3-pointers on you.
Yeah.
So what do? You leave Bogey on an island. And there's no next level there.
And the thing that I would say too, what's funny about these comments is I love that people will say, oh well, these comments right here are very surface level arguments, right? You notice that nobody's talking about the fact that their shooting percentage has been crap over the last several games, right? All you ever hear is, well, they won 9 games and everything's great and they have a next level too. Jazz fans are living in this kind of, I don't even know really how to describe it other than to just say you're living in an alternate reality about who this team is. Yes, the record says they're the best team in the league. I don't doubt that. It's on paper. Awesome. Like, they've shown that they can beat a lot of teams in the NBA. That's very true. But they've also shown us in games of consequence, a.k.a. potential postseason matchups, they are not better than those teams. That's what we're talking about on this show. Who gives a damn if you beat the Bulls by 50? I don't care. You should have beat them by 50.
Here's the 9 games. At the Raptors, impressive win.
Good win, yeah.
At the Bulls, not impressive. Home versus the Nets. On paper, that sounds great. Well, until you realize that Harden, Durant, and Kyrie didn't play.
Yeah.
Home back-to-back against the Grizzlies.
Grinder games, but you should win those.
Home versus the Cavaliers. You
definitely should win that.
Absolutely destroyed them. At the Grizzlies.
Definitely should win.
Versus the Bulls.
Definitely should win.
Versus the Magic. Where
Definitely
you won
should win.
By 40, I think it was 45.
Yeah.
And then the Mavericks, the first real competitive team you played, you lost. And that's why I say tonight you got to go there and you have to dominate. You have to win, because if we go back to that long streak in what was that, February?
Yeah.
Where they beat Detroit at Atlanta, at Charlotte, at Indiana, Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, Philly, and then the Clippers, and then they lost that one game to the Clippers and beat Charlotte and the Lakers, and then they lose to Miami. at Miami, right? Tough game. You beat Orlando, and then you lose back-to-back at New Orleans and Philly. And I don't think you've been the same team since.
You lost to New Orleans, dude.
And but New Orleans, again, played that mentality and used that blueprint.
Yeah.
Guards aggressively attacking the rim. Zion aggressively attacking the rim. Rudy won a lot of those battles in there, but he didn't win enough of them because you can't win every one of them.
Right.
And my point is that when you're the Utah Jazz, you better figure that out. You better figure out how to defend the paint when Rudy is sagging, because a lot of that stuff was driving kick as well.
Yeah, I think that the answer to all of the Jazz issues is simply just shooting the three ball at a high rate.
Yeah.
That's the great thing and the worst thing here, because shooting the three ball is not an easy feat. Like, I know that in NBA games we're constantly watching all these guys like Steph and everybody, Trae Young last night, making logo threes,
Yep.
But I also think what you have to consider is that even the best shooter of all time in Steph Curry is 42.3%.
43% in the regular season, 40% in the postseason.
That should tell you, even the best shooter the game's ever seen is only making 4 out of 10. So when you ask Royce O'Neal or Bogdanovich or Joe Ingles or Jordan Clarkson or Donovan Mitchell to make 40% from 3, that's not realistic. None of those guys are Steph Curry. None of them. So that's why I'm saying you're going to shoot 35 to 37% from 3 in the postseason. Guaranteed.
At your best.
At your best. Yeah, what happens on the nights when
best.
you shoot like 25%?
You lose. And Tanner makes a really good point. Tanner Plummer on YouTube says, if the Jazz don't win tonight, the quote-unquote fraud narrative will continue to pick up speed. Do you agree? Oh, yeah. And I don't think the Jazz are a fraud. Let's be really careful about this.
Yeah.
The Jazz are not frauds. The Jazz are an elite basketball team. My feeling is that they're built on a house of cards.
Yeah.
That's my feeling on the Utah Jazz. They're not frauds. They're very good, but they're a one-trick pony. They have to shoot the 3 really well to win. The Suns, I would say the Clippers, what we saw out of Paul George last night, Jake,
Yeah.
they don't have to. Clippers are not reliant on the 3 to win. It certainly helps. When Mr. Longfingers, Kahwi Leonard, is making a 3 on a kick out, or when what's really scary about the Clippers right now? If you look at the way they're playing over the last couple of, I would say 3-4 weeks worth of games, Paul George, Kahwi Leonard, and Reggie Jackson are on the floor together, and they're making shots. They're playing well.
The chemistry is clearly building.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. You look at the Denver Nuggets. Are the Denver Nuggets getting better right now?
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon has injected energy into that club.
Well,
and Nikola Jokic, I think, is playing outstanding basketball.
Think of it this way. Like, in terms of like where teams are trending, like the Jazz got off to this crazy start, right? Like, they light the league on fire. Everything's amazing. And I'm not saying right now that they're trending down, but they're certainly not trending up. Right, they're not going up and to the right. They're just kind of going middle and to the right. You know what I mean? They're just kind of working right now. Whereas the Nuggets up and to the right, the Clippers up and to the right.
Yes.
You've got all these teams that are contenders. The Suns up and to the right. These teams are building. These teams are starting to get hot at the right time of the year. And that's another thing that I have a concern about, is just that you put all this effort and energy in the first half, and you had a really short All-Star break coming off of a really short offseason. So you're not going to be rested at all. And again, just saying, we told you in the first half, hey, they will slow down from 3 at some point. And what did we see? We saw a big downturn towards the end of the first half from three-point land, and that's because they were tired. Their legs were tired. So I'm just telling you guys, we're not sitting here saying that, hey, this is some crap team or the Jazz aren't legit or whatever. They are legit. They're going to be in the postseason. They are going to be in a game to get to the NBA Finals. I firmly believe that. And in that game, whether it's the Nuggets, the Clippers, whoever it may be, right? Maybe it's the Suns, who knows, right? But whoever they're playing, that moment right there, when Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals tips off and it's Jazz versus whoever, that's the moment we've been waiting for the entire season to see if the 3 ball is going to show up. And it needs to show up for them to be solidified.
I think the Suns have to win this game.
Yeah, no doubt.
Tonight in Phoenix. I think if the Suns win this game, they're on a trajectory that's going to be tough to stop because the Lakers aren't coming back.
Right.
I think the Clippers and the Suns, the Nuggets, those are all very dangerous teams.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I look at where the Jazz are, the Jazz have to win this game. If the Jazz lose this game, it's going to be really difficult to regain that momentum.
Yep.
I think Donovan Mitchell has to be a superstar tonight. I know he wants that. I know he's up for that. I know he's thirsty for that.
Mm-hmm.
He has to be truly a superstar tonight. And I cannot wait for this game.
Well, and if you're the Suns, this game is not. It's not just about picking up a game on the Jazz. If you're the Suns, this game is about mentally getting to a place where you're able to say to yourself, "Yeah, we can beat them. Like we can handle them. We can. If we do what we do, we're just as good as them, and we're not fearful of seeing them in a 7-gamer, in the Western Conference Finals or whatever, or whenever they would, potentially meet." And I think that's huge for the rest of the year. And so if you're the Jazz, when I say this is a must-win game, I don't mean from a record standpoint. Yeah, if you lose this game, you're still a game ahead or whatever it is.
Game and a half, yeah.
You still are ahead, and your fate is in your control. So by a record standpoint, it's not nearly a must-win game. But from a mindset perspective, from a get your swag in order perspective, from a, hey, we need to flex on the Suns and show them this is what it is. We're going into their building in Phoenix, and we want to beat them by 10 or 15 points. If that happens, that will catapult the Jazz to another level.
I just think the Suns are too good defensively to lose by 10 or 15 points.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a very even game, and I think if you haven't watched the Suns all year, prioritize watching this game because you will see a great game tonight.
Yeah, I am shocked to say that the Jazz have fallen this far. I'm really surprised just based on their quality. A couple other things from around the league last night. No, I absolutely. Marcus says, make your pick. Is it Donovan or is it Book?
Well, I'm going with the Suns. Yeah, I'm going with the Suns.
If you just tuned in, I'm taking Devin Booker over Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking the Suns to win this game. I think it's going to be.
This is a 40 for Devin Booker.
Yeah, I think it'll be a 2-possession game. I think this will be. The Jazz will probably have the ball with a chance to take the lead on the last possession. I would guess. That's what this is a playoff game. That's what these games generally come down to. So I think I'll take the Suns to win like 110-107. 110, 108.
Mm-hmm.
Free throws. If it's more than 4, it's probably free throws at the end of the game. But I think I'll take the Suns to win a very, very close game. Very close game. I think it's critical for both. Couple other things from around the NBA last night. How much do you put on this win by the Sixers and how bad Boston's playing right now? I mean, I don't know how you explain this, what's going on with the Celtics.
I actually think, to be honest with you, I just think that the Celtics are in a place where they don't have direction. Like every time we talked about them, it just seems like, you have Brad Stevens, and he is responsible, right? Like it is his responsibility to get this team in a place where they're going to win big games against the Sixers, let's say, or whatever. But I don't think that it's all Brad Stevens' fault. I think that there's a couple of things at play here. So number one, the post-Kyrie era in Boston is a rudderless ship. They don't have... Jason Tatum is a phenomenal player. I love watching the guy play. He's not a superstar in this league yet. He is not quite at that level yet where it's his team, and then you have a bunch of awesome second-tier players.
He needs guys around him to step up.
He needs Kemba. He needs Jaylen Brown. He needs those guys to make something happen. And when they're not, the Celtics are not going to win. So if you're Boston, you got one of two options here. You're either tearing the whole thing down and you're keeping Jason Tatum and rebuilding a whole new team around him, including a new head coach, or you have to commit to Brad Stevens in the long term. You have to say, hey, this isn't all on Brad Stevens. We've got to build a better culture and a better roster to work with.
You should have made the Aaron Gordon trade. And because this Boston team needs a rebuild.
He would have been perfect there.
There's no doubt about that. And the ball breaker from last night in this loss to Philly is you had 4 of your 5 starters in double digits. You got 20 out of Tatum. You outshot the Sixers. You shot 41% from 3.
Yep.
and you lost.
Yep.
And I think when I look at the plight of this team, it is that you cannot compete in the middle. If you're the Boston Celtics, you have no way to defend Joel Embiid, who goes 1 of 5 from 3 and still scores 35 points.
And it's funny if you compare the Celtics to the Jazz, not from like a record standpoint or like where they're at in the league, but just from like a roster perspective.
Yes.
The Celtics don't have anything in the middle. Joel scores 35. Well, what do the Jazz have in the middle? They've got the Defensive Player of the Year, and Joel Embiid put up 40, 45 points on him. So the issue, I don't even feel like the issue for the Celtics, honestly, is the lack of a big man. Yeah, they do have that, and they need a big man. The issue is they don't have. Jason Tatum can't put up 20 against Philly. I need 40 against Philly, dude. Like, I need you to go out and make a statement against Philly. Devin Booker, 40 points tonight against the Jazz. Has to happen. Simple as that if you want to win that game.
Who's going to show out?
Yeah.
And I have more confidence in CP3 and Book than I do in Mitchell and Conley.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Lakers and Raps last night. This Dennis Schroeder thing with Anunoby, I am at a loss for words to understand what OJ Anunoby was doing.
Yeah.
I just don't. You know what? And if you didn't see it, OG Anunoby was on the break. Schroeder caught up to him. Anunoby went up to dunk the ball, and Schroeder actually got his whole hand on the ball.
Yeah.
And swiped down. They kind of stumbled to the left, and OG Anunoby went Karate Kid and swept the leg on Schroeder and threw him on his back.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those games that galvanizes a team for the Lakers. And I'm telling you now, if they get LeBron back, don't run into that team in the first or second round.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was a really stupid move by OG Anunoby, but at the same time, like, yeah, for the Lakers, it was a great thing because OG Anunoby had a choice not to do that.
Yes,
they had run into each other, everything was cool. The play had stopped, and then he just went and did it. And so you get Montrezl Harrell stepping right in, not taking anything. You get the rest of the team stepping in. And I think you're right. It was a great moment. And I think that the team, it's funny, the team is finally, that second unit of players that they have is finally starting to come together.
The problem for the league right now with the Lakers is there's development happening with that second unit. And if I'd have told you without AD, without LeBron, Trez getting ejected after 2 minutes, there's no way that they're beating the Raptors in Tampa. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And it's because when you start looking at the guys that are really contributing now, Markieff Morris has given them big points. You look at Alex Caruso, who, listen, I think as a bench player, Alex Caruso giving you 3 of 4 from 3 and 13 points, diving on the floor. He's become a real central figure for them. You know about Horton Tucker already. I think you know about Schroeder, KCP. Like, they're getting development out of all of these guys that are now contributing. They shot 45% from 3 last night without their best players.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Yeah,
the Lakers may be realizing the silver lining in the AD LeBron injuries. If they stay in the playoffs, and there's no guarantee, I don't think they're falling out of the playoffs. But if they stay in the top 6, man, I think they're going to be difficult. And I still think it's odd that you don't know what's going on with LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
They're not talking about those injuries
because they're going to take their time.
That's a little scary. If you're a Laker fan, that's a little scary. All right, make sure if you're watching this video right now on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. Go ahead and click the thumbs up button there. Click subscribe. We really appreciate you guys being here.